So welcome back. Today is June 12th, and you may have noticed, but 538 posted its new election forecast. So contrary to many polls and predictions, Biden is actually leading in 521 of the 1,000 simulations, which is over half of the simulations. So 538 is forecasting a Biden victory as of June 12th, 2024. So I'd like to go through this, maybe nitpick it, analyze it, and see what we can take from this, and maybe determine who will win this next presidential election. So without further ado, let's begin. So as you can see in most of these forecasts, it is actually extremely close, but there are some where Trump is leading with over 500 votes, or Biden is leading with almost 500 as well. So going through this, you can see that even some of the safe states will be contested. Like Washington has a 5% chance of going to Trump, and even Mississippi has a 4% chance of going to Biden. But regardless, as we start this prediction, I'm going to give any state that has less than a 10% chance of going to one of the candidates, for example, 5% to Trump or 4% to Biden, as a safe state in this election cycle. So we'll start with the West Coast, giving Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii to President Biden. However, Trump has some safe states of his own, such as Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, and Alaska. Alaska, interestingly, has an 8% chance of going to President Biden, but it still is a safe state. The state of Colorado does have only a 9% chance of going to Trump, yet the state of New Mexico has a 16% chance, so it can't be classified as a safe state. On the other hand, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska's at large, as well as Nebraska's 1st and 3rd, Kansas, and Oklahoma are all safely going to Donald Trump. So is the state of Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and South Carolina. South Carolina, interestingly, has a whopping 9% chance of going to Biden, which I really didn't expect. And Kansas has a 5% chance of going to Biden. Indiana has a 3% chance. So you can see that some of these states are in contention, even though they are safe states. So it's kind of weird to notice this fact. But next we go to the states that will solidly go to Biden on the East Coast, as Biden wins most of the coastal states. There are some interesting things to note with these states, but I'm going to first give New York, New Jersey, Vermont, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. It's also important to note that Maine's 1st district will go to President Biden safely, but interestingly enough, 2 states on the East Coast, New Hampshire and Maine, are not safely going to President Biden. Maine, in fact, has over a 20% chance, and so does New Hampshire, of going to Trump, and Maine's 2nd district is most likely going to Trump. The state of New Jersey has 8% chance of going to Trump, and there is something interesting to note about the District of Columbia. So the District of Columbia is unique in the fact that Kennedy is actually leading Trump. This is the only district or state where Kennedy is in 2nd place, and it may be a surprise to many, but for the Kennedy camp, they are actually excited by this result because Kennedy placing 2nd above one of the past presidents is actually good news for his chances in this election cycle. I don't think it means much because it's only in this one district, but it is an interesting thing to note as it's unique to DC. So now that that's over, let's go to the battleground states. And there are a whopping 16 battleground states as well as 2 battleground districts in this election cycle. 16 is way higher than I originally anticipated, as in most of my predictions I have around 11 or 12 battleground states. Yet let's analyze each and every one of these and see who will win this election, as neither candidate is particularly close to 270 electoral votes just yet. So let's start with the state of New Mexico, which I almost never have as a battleground state in my predictions. So geographically, New Mexico does resemble that of many of the safely Republican states. However, essentially its demographic background, New Mexico does resemble most of Biden's safe states. So it is an interesting state to cover. We can see that the win probability is Biden's winning 84 times out of 100, yet Trump wins 16 times out of 100. Particularly if Trump is able to galvanize his Latino support, then he may have a chance at winning the state of New Mexico. However, even still, New Mexico will probably go to Biden, as it's going to Biden in most scenarios. However, Trump has some states of his own that are like this, such as the state of Iowa. The state of Iowa is going to Trump 84% of the time, similar to the state of New Mexico with President Biden. Iowa resembles Trump support in that it's mostly a rural state. However, it does have some booming cities, and it is in the Midwest, which does go towards Biden. But most of the time, Iowa will go to Donald Trump, and in recent elections, it has gone to the Republican Party. It's gone to Donald Trump in every recent election that he's participated in, and I predict that it will go to Donald Trump. So now we see that Biden hits 196 electoral votes, yet Trump is catching up with 131. He's going to get another 40 from the state of Texas, as we see here. So, the state of Texas offers the second most electoral votes in the entire union, and it has a 78% chance of going to Donald Trump. The state of Texas, in some of these simulations, goes to Trump by about 30%. But in some, it goes to Biden by almost 20, so it's pretty interesting. But in every poll, Trump is leading by 9 or 10. I don't really understand why some polls or some forecasts have Biden leading by this much, as it's not likely at all, and I don't think it's even possible. But it is interesting to see some of these outliers in these forecasts. And in general, 538 has Trump winning, as Texas is a state that has in the past gone to the Republican Party, maybe by decreasing amounts, but it has gone to Republicans in past elections. So Texas will go to Donald Trump, maybe not by as much as in past elections, but it still will nonetheless. So next we'll cover another state with many electoral votes, which is the state of Florida. So the state of Florida, similar to Texas, I think will go to Donald Trump, and I think it'll go to Trump similar to Texas by more than it did in 2020, but it won't go to Trump by as much as maybe some of the polls are predicting, like plus 10 by this group with very low stars. I don't think it will go to Trump by this much. Yet I think it will go to Trump by maybe solid 5 percentage points. And this is backed up by the fact that Trump wins by around this much in most of the 538 forecasts. In fact, Trump wins 74 times out of 100 according to 538. So with that, Trump passes Biden and he gets 201 electoral votes to Biden's 196. But as we know, Biden does win most of the time according to 538's forecast, and this is due to states such as Minnesota. Minnesota, which has the longest active streak of going to the Democratic Party, goes to Biden 72 times out of 100. Minnesota may not go to Biden by as much as it did back in 2020, and it may be more similar to 2016 margins, but it will go to Biden nonetheless, but it won't be a safe state in this election cycle. So now we'll go to the state of Ohio with its whopping 17 electoral votes. So the state of Ohio has a 78% chance of going to Trump in this election, which is in line with the recent primary where Trump-backed candidate Bernie Moreno easily beat some candidates that were backed more so by the establishment, such as Frank LaRose and Matt Dolan. So with that in mind, Trump does have immense influence in the state, which is backed up by him winning it in 2016 by 8.1 and by 8 in 2020. So he'll probably have a similar margin in 2024, but it will not be a safely Republican state as some of these forecasts predict. It will probably be more in this area of him winning by like 5 to 8 percentage points, but he will win the state of Ohio nonetheless, bringing him to 231 electoral votes. It is important to note that the Senate election between Sherrod Brown and Bernie Moreno is likely leading to more Biden support in this election cycle, as Sherrod Brown is a popular candidate from the Democratic Party, which may lead to more people voting for Biden, but Ohio again will go to Trump regardless. So now let's round out the Northeast, starting with the state of Maine. So Maine, which wasn't really seen as a swing state back in 2020 or in 2016, even though it only went to Clinton by 3 percentage points, that was a shocker. Maine is a swing state in 2024, as it only goes to Biden by 79 times out of 100. Yes, this is similar to Ohio/Florida margins, but Ohio and Florida are traditional swing states unlike the state of Maine. So Maine, again, is a rural state similar to the state of Iowa, but since it's in the Northeast, it is in line with many similar Biden states. This is like the state of Vermont, which is also a rural state, but goes to President Biden. So we see in Maine, Kennedy actually has pretty decent support, but Biden will likely win in the state of Maine, picking up its electoral votes. But again, Biden does easily win Maine's first congressional district. Yet, as we can see here, Trump actually does pick up Maine's second congressional district, due to this making up most of mainland Maine, and it doesn't include Maine's capital city. So next, we have our state of New Hampshire, which is definitely a swing state in this election cycle. As we remember, back in 2016, it barely went to Hillary Clinton, and in 2020, it went to Biden by 7 points, but it won't go to Biden by as much in 2024 because some polls have it being even or even Trump winning. But this has Biden up by 3, Biden up by 6. He'll likely win, but not by a crazy margin. So New Hampshire does give its electoral votes to Biden, and Biden does catch up to Donald Trump. Speaking of catching up, let's go to the Midwest. Let's start with the state of Pennsylvania. As you can see, Pennsylvania does have Biden in the lead, even though some of these polls, including this poll by Mayor's College, have Trump up by about 2 percentage points. However, the state of Pennsylvania overall is predicted to go to Biden, and this may be due to Biden's more middle-class roots, which resonate with many Pennsylvania voters, as well as the booming city of Philadelphia, which does largely vote for President Biden. So now it's pretty even. It's a dead heat, with Biden at 231 and Trump at 232. Let's see if Michigan changes anything. A big issue in the state of Michigan, as well as Minnesota, is the Israel-Palestine conflict. And we can see that this is not really affecting Biden's support, with Biden still having 58% chance of winning this election, and with his win probability remaining relatively stagnant over time. Biden did win Michigan back in 2020, and even though Trump won in 2016, it is likely going to Biden in 2024, according to 538. But this isn't by too much. This is only by a slight margin. Speaking of slight margins, we'll go to the state of Wisconsin, which also has Biden winning, but only by 56%. As we can see here, Trump trails by about 1 percentage point in most of the forecasts, and this leads to Biden picking up his remaining state in the Midwest, with that being Wisconsin. And Trump needs to sweep the remaining states to even have a chance at this election. Biden can pick up one, like Nevada or Arizona, but Trump essentially needs to win all of the remaining states. And he starts with the state of Georgia, which in a pretty shocking outcome did go to President Biden back in 2020 after going to Trump by 5 in 2016. Georgia does go to Trump by about 58 times out of 100, and this is due to its southern roots likely leading to its voters being galvanized and voting for Donald Trump. The same with North Carolina. Even though there's unpopular gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson, Trump does win 60 out of 100 in these simulations. So Trump makes it to 264 electoral votes out of the 270 required to win. So next we have the state of Nevada, which offers only 6 electoral votes, but has been trending more and more Republican in recent elections. It did go to Clinton back in 2016, but went to Biden by similar margins back in 2020. So Trump does win Nevada 55 times out of 100 in these simulations, putting him at 270 electoral votes. So since he has won, let's go to Arizona just really quickly. So Arizona barely went to Biden and barely went to Katie Hobbs in the gubernatorial election. And as such, it is as swing of a swing state as a swing state can get. That's a tongue twister. But Trump wins it and reaches 281 electoral votes, which actually contrasts 538's prediction that Biden will win, which is interesting. But anyways, if you want more videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe. And thank you.